Hello and welcome to Matrix Live. This week, Travis is going to tell us everything about MIMI. It involves standards bodies and regulators, but it's way more exciting than it sounds. Then Midhun is going to demo Trafficlight, a controller coordinating several clients to play test sequences on live systems. Let's get started with Travis.
Okay, so a bunch of people were asking kind of what Matrix and Mimi are, and so I just want to kind of talk about it for a little bit and kind of go through it all. So, assuming I can use PowerPoint, there we go. There are sort of three major questions, like even is Mimi? What does it stand for? What is it doing? What do we want to do with it? How does it affect us? And where are we at currently? I'm going to try and speed run this so that way we can finish on the hour. So first, what is MIMI? MIMI is the More Instant Messaging Interoperability Working Group at the IETF, or hopefully working group by the time this is recorded. We'll find out next week. But it's created out of an interest to standby support for the European Union's Digital Markets Act, or DMA, which I'm hoping people have heard by now, but it requires gatekeepers to interoperate with other messengers. We think that's a good thing, particularly on the Matrix side, just because, well, we can do the thing that Matrix does. And you might see where this is going, because Matrix provides that interoperable standard for secure decentralized communication and all those fancy keywords. So today the gatekeepers kind of look like this. You have WhatsApp and Instagram, for instance, and there's also Twitter off to the side. And you know, WhatsApp and Instagram can sort of talk to each other if you have a business account and all that fun stuff, but they can't really talk to Twitter. So DMA wants to do something like that. You just apply magic in the middle, and they just interoperate with each other. But the catch is that they want to do it with encryption maintained the entire way. So because WhatsApp here supports encryption, all three of them have to kind of support that same encryption without breaking it across that interoperability layer. So how do we do that? Obviously with Matrix. So when you use Matrix for interoperability, you remove that cloud of confusion and you replace server with home server. And now all those different services can talk to each other and federate. WhatsApp and Instagram, for instance, could just continue doing their normal thing, communicating however they like. But you know, to talk to Twitter, they need to go over something, and we want that to be Matrix. So the bits that we need are the Federation API and the HTTPS transport, with MSCs coming soon, extensible events, so that's MSC 1767 and all of its friends. Also, governance process to maintain what we're calling an LTS version of Matrix. That is described currently as MSC 3923, which should have most of the to-do comments resolved by the time this recording goes out.
What is LTS?
LTS will be a long-term supported version of Matrix. So it's the idea that you can maintain all sorts of different things without actually having to break it down. So for the Federation API, this is the server-to-server communication layer, or what those different sort of transports, or what those different pieces would be talking to over a suggested transport of HTTPS for now. The algorithms themselves are kept in room versions, just like they are today. So that's how membership works, how events are accepted or rejected. We're not including any of the client-server API because that's just complicated, and implementation is relatively easy to do so. Gitter kind of showing how it can be done quickly, but there's also alternative ways, and we'll be documenting those in the internet drafts for the IETF, for how you can actually do this without sacrificing too much of your time. Extensible events are basically the idea of being able to move content blocks of stuff over these rooms. So these are like your text messages, your images, that sort of stuff today. It can be end-to-end encrypted using Ohm and Megohm, or with DMLS in the future, which is message layer security. And basically we're just providing the schema. We're not actually looking to define actual types. Instead, we're going to leave that to registrars, like the Matrix Storage Foundation. So this is similar to what you see with domains and similar sort of specifications within the IETF. So instant messaging, for instance, VoIP 3D worlds and all that could be just delegated completely to the foundation, and it would be okay. There is a upcoming MSC that describes this a lot better than I can in the sort of 30 seconds on this slide. On the governance side, we want to maintain rapid prototyping. Rapid prototyping is good for us because it means that we can move faster or slower than the silos depending on what we want to do. So we don't want to propose every MSC through the IETF process because that can be slow and a bit cumbersome. So instead, we're sort of snapshotting Matrix into an LTS or long-term supported version to maintain forwards compatibility, specifically forwards and not backwards, because we want the IETF version to basically be almost behind the matrix.org version. But any changes that happen on the IETF side also go through with MSCs on the matrix side, and likewise the other way around. And so if we design this well enough or properly, either side could reject a proposal and it won't affect either end. But that also shouldn't happen very often because the people on the IETF are smart, the people on matrix.org are smart, and so it's not like things are going to be accepted that are completely incompatible. But the good news is the spec core team needs to sign off on this plan as MSC 3923 before we can actually sort of enact it. That's also the place where people can leave feedback if they think that there's a better way. Please let us know, because we are not entirely convinced that this might be the way, but it's looking quite promising. So where are we at currently? This is kind of the timeline for Matrix. So 2014 was created, 2019 exited beta. Earlier this year, Mimi kind of started around, and hopefully in this month of November, that's definitely not October, Mimi becomes a working group. And then we have an undetermined amount of time where we have lots and lots of discussions back and forth, both with the IATF, with our own Matrix community here, and hopefully getting it adopted, and then it's implemented just everywhere. And that'll be the sort of win condition for Matrix. But how can you help? And there's definitely 4 questions. Sorry about that. Basically, just let us know what you think. The Matrix spec chat or room is a great place to chat about it, but also just kind of talk to about it on all of the MSCs that will be labeled with either IATF or Mimi, or just on MSC 3923, and kind of let us go. 1 minute over. Questions, concerns?
This sounds really great. If you have any feedback, please join the Matrix spec room on Matrix. Next up is Midhun with the Trafficlight demo.
Hey guys, I just want to share some progress that we've made with Trafficlight. So to provide a bit of context, Trafficlight is basically what we use to do end-to-end testing across the Matrix ecosystem. And the basic idea is you have a Trafficlight server which contains the tests, and then you have a bunch of clients that register with the Trafficlight server. So these clients could be Element Web, they could be Element Android, they could be Hydrogen, they could be Cine, they could be whatever you want. And once the clients are registered, the server will run each test sequentially, and each test includes actions. So the action could be something like registering a new account, logging in to an already existing account, sending a message, something like that. And so through performing actions, you can test different things. That's the basic idea. So I'm going to run one of the tests right now. And this test is basically verifying whether Matrix clients will retry sending to device messages. So when you create a new room with encryption turned on, and you send the first message, you also need to send the room key. And this room key is sent separately as a to-device event using a different send to device endpoint. So what can happen is that if the message itself failed to send, most clients are intelligent enough to retry sending them. But sometimes some clients may not retry sending the to-device messages if it fails. So that's what we'll be confirming right now. So here we basically have 3 Trafficlight clients, of which 2 are Element Web, and the one remaining is a proxy client. So the Element Web clients will talk with Synapse through the proxy server, and this lets us selectively disable certain endpoints. So in this test, we'll be disabling the send to device endpoint. So let's run the test. So these 2 terminals here, those are running the Element Web clients, and the one at the bottom here is running the proxy client. And this is the the actual Trafficlight server. And the one on the left is home runner, which is what Trafficlight uses internally to spin up local Synapse instances. So we're using Cypress to drive Element Web. So this is Alice registering an account. I'm just going to speed things up because this is pretty slow. Alice is creating a new room. Bob is creating an account. Alice is inviting Bob. Bob accepts the invite. So at this point, the Trafficlight server will ask the proxy client to disable the send to device endpoint. And you can see in the logs that the endpoint is disabled. Now you can see Alice sending a message. And on Bob's end, it's a UTD, as expected. At this point, the Trafficlight server will ask the proxy to enable the send to device endpoint. You can see that here. And you can also see that the request actually occurs and is now blocked here. Now, Bob should be able to decrypt the message. So now if we look in the Trafficlight UI, we can see that the test was successful. So we can say that Element Web does retry sending to device messages.
I have one very final quick demo, as I warned earlier, which I'll do by coming into the screen here and show you my iPhone, which hopefully is visible on the camera there. You can see we've got a blue Element X logo there at the bottom. I'll fire it up, and it loads my entire account like so in a couple of seconds. And if I go into an encrypted room, my new vector internal, then you can see that I've got the end-to-end encrypted history sitting there in Element X. That is how easy and quick Element X on iOS is right now. Woo!